the principle of subsidiarity is an important one, that whatever that can be done at the lower level must be done at that level, and what is not possible to do at that level only needs to be then taken up to the next level. Now, if we follow that principle, a lot of our issues would be resolved, particularly political issues, but more and more it has become clear to us that economic issues as well would be better handled if the principle of subsidiarity was followed. There is always the question of ownership of whatever that happens in one's area. So often we hear the question as to why Colombo should decide what kind of development that must happen in Mondragala or in Matara or Polnarua or Jaffna. The people of that area must decide, of course, within the framework of one cohesive policy that is adopted. That is the way in which you can actually get people to own whatever that happens in their areas. Otherwise, it will be foreign to them, it will be something that is imposed on them, and if there is no ownership of that, then it will not succeed. People ask me, now that my children have gone to university, etc., often ask me, what are your children doing? And when I start telling what number 1 is doing, what number 2 is doing, what number 3 is doing, I have only 3, often I hear the expression, oh, they must do what they like, they must choose. And I think that kind of realization has come to all parents these days, that even in schools, once they come to a particular age, A-levels or whatever, the line that they must follow, they choose, we give it to them. Why do we do that? Because they own it. They must feel that this is their choice, right? That they are doing what they have decided. So that's just one example. But this is more true when you take development in different regions and areas, and indeed when you have different languages spoken. Language is a very important identity. It really gets the people to engage. That is why India is so successful, because they devolved political power on the basis of linguistic states. The moment that was done, a person who spoke Malayalam in Kerala was able to identify, engage. There was no foreignness, there was no otherness in matters that affected them day to day. Somebody in Punjab could do the same. Rajasthani could do likewise, Odisha for that matter. So devolution of power to regions on linguistic basis has a very, very strong foundation, very strong reason, rationale. If you look at Canada too, that's the basis on which Quebec still exists within the Federation of Canada, because there is devolution on federal lines, and they are satisfied that that is so. Even in Great Britain, although they all speak English, they have their own languages and cultures and their own their consciousness that they are different nations that have come together. And although Britain is supposedly a country that has a unitary framework, because there is no council in England, It's the other three states three nations that have councils. Scotland has a parliament. Still, the extent of devolution of power is in Great Britain is sometimes far more than what you find in overtly federal countries. And if you look at countries that have flourished economically, be it the United States of America, Australia, Canada, or many countries in Europe, they all have federal systems of government. India has flourished. You have question mark as to whether that's federal or quasi-federal or not. It doesn't matter what it is, because as I said, even what is said to be a unitary state, the devolution is much more. So it's the old distinction that either you be federal or you be unitary is no more. Those lines have blurred. But the important question, important principle is the principle of subsidiarity, that you go down to the ground, that you allow people to participate in governance. So at one level, local authorities must have more power, more people's voices must be heard in their local areas. So strengthen the local government institutions, give them more power. There is a lot of talk about police power these days. In many of those countries that I mentioned, police powers are exercised by local authorities at three different levels. So it's the important issue is, if it is a republic, if it is people-centered government, how much access to governmental power that people actually have. And it only through a proper and meaningful process of devolution of power one can achieve that. And when you do that, you will definitely have economic prosperity as well. Our issues are unique or peculiar to us, but even here, one of the problems that have been, since we had the economic crisis, in trying to get the diaspora to come, invest, and so on. Diaspora who are in monetary terms far more worth than what Sri Lankan state is today. One of the issues have been, is there proper devolution? Is there a political solution to the long-standing issues? And the cause for the economic crisis itself can be easily traced to the unnecessary war that we fought among ourselves. If agreements that were signed between leaders in 1957 and 1965 had been implemented, or even in 1970 to 72 when an autochthonous constitution was evolved, when if majoritarianism hadn't reigned, if the federal party's proposals at the Constituent Assembly had been accepted, the last of the proposals was not even federalism, not even regional autonomy. It was only to implement the United Front government's own electoral promise, what was in their own election manifesto in 1970, to have the kacheris as elected bodies. Even that was defeated by a majoritarian vote, and so we lost out on that. And therefore, it's after that people forget why the call for a separate state came. It didn't come in 1948. Even a call for federalism did not come in 1948. It's as a denial of the right to participate meaningfully, to have the equal citizenship right and the group right, the identities were not allowed to be practiced and flourish. That is when the call came, all right, if we don't have that equal status in this country, let's go our own way. Don't stand in our way. We've come a complete circle. Now, as was said, Three main contestants are saying we will implement whatever that is in the constitution fully, all of that. I must say that our people are not fooled by that. When there is a three-cornered fight, we become the deciding factor. And so they are saying all this. So we are not about to be duped by these vague promises. So we have asked the President to actually implement all that can be implemented before his term ends in October. We have told him that his two main contenders, his two main opponents have said they will implement everything in full. So then they can't oppose it. They can't do it because they can only promise. They can only promise to do if they come to office. But he is in office and he keeps promising. So when his two main opponents are not opposed to it, he can actually do it. So it's an opportunity to actually resolve this long-standing issue that has led to this economic crisis. And if this is resolved, country will remain together as a united, undivided, and as Honorable Sumanthiran, who recently died, added another word to that phrase. He said united, undivided, and indivisible. And we were prepared to even have all of that to make certain that the country remains one, but duly devolve power in a meaningful way so that all the peoples of this country can have equal access to political power. Thank you.